Hello everybody and welcome to the first of the Preparing to Study A-Level Computer Science videos. These videos are going to be aimed at anybody that's looking to study computer science at A-Level next year at the Campion School. It might be that you've studied GCSE before and you've used another language, you might have used VB, but they might be quite handy for you to have a look at. It might be that you've never done any programming before, and that's absolutely fine. These videos should help. It would also be helpful for students that I've taught and have been through the school and they want a bit of a refresher on how things work so they're ready to start in September. Over the course of the videos I'll put up some solutions to the problems which are going to be found in the Preparing to Study document that you should be able to get on the school website if you're looking to join us next year. We're going to be using VB.net in these videos. Now, in lessons it doesn't really matter what language you use. Some say that we should use Python, some say C# is better. Really, there isn't a debate to be had about languages. They're all as good as each other. They've all got different uses. We use VB.net just because it looks the most similar to what you're going to see in the exam paper. But if you've got experience in Python and you're very comfortable doing that, then you can continue to use that in lessons. That's absolutely fine. I'll do demonstrations in VB. I might use another language sometimes. It's quite useful for people to see that. But you can do what you want in terms of preparing. For now, as I said, these videos are just going to be in VB.net, and I might do some more in the future, but for now I'm here to teach you to write programs and get good at writing programs rather than to be able to recall all the syntax of a language. That's not what the point of studying programming is. So let's have a look at what we're going to do in this video. This video we're going to download and install Visual Studio, which can cause a few problems sometimes. We're going to set up a command line project in VB.net, so it's going to be your first program, and then you're just going to write the traditional first program, which is the Hello World program. There's also going to be a few exercises at the end for you to try and see what you've learned. So without any pause, what we're going to do is we're going to go straight to the internet and just want to search for Visual Studio. So Visual Studio is something that's made by Microsoft, and you can write many different programming languages in it. It's actually the one used for C# as well. But if you just go to downloads, it's actually free for you to get the community version. So there's a few other versions on there. There's a version called Visual Studio Code, which won't let you actually run the program, but it'll let you edit things. And there's also Visual Studio for Mac. Now, if you're a Mac user, you might struggle to use VB.net, but you can use it to write C#. I believe works on the Mac, but for now VB.net is Windows only. Now, you'll be using Windows in school, so it's probably better if you have a Windows computer, but there hasn't really been a barrier to people studying the subject in the past. Hello, I'm just going to insert something at this point rather than re-record the whole video. If you are a Mac user, you can get a Visual Studio compiler through a web browser which just runs over the internet, and you can use that on your Mac. So you can write these programs without having the software installed on your computer, and you may even prefer, if you can't get Visual Studio to work at home on your Windows computer, you can just use this instead. So if you go to a Visual Basic compiler online, just search for that on Google, and I think the best one is tutorialspoint.com. But to be honest, I think .fiddle is quite good as well, but it's probably the most straightforward one to use. And you can see it writes out a basic program for us. If you fast forward through the bit about installing, you'll be able to catch me up at the point where we're at now. But to run this program, rather than press the play button like we would do in Visual Studio, you can just click execute, and your program starts running from that point on there. Okay, so there's another alternative if you can't access the software. So make sure you get the community version, the free version. Just click free download. Yeah, oh, there we go. I was wondering why I hadn't started. So if I click save file, it's just going to download, and I can just go and install it from there. Now you're going to get a thing called Visual Studio Installer, which I've probably got already actually, so yours might take a bit more of a longer time than mine's taking. But you get this quite in-depth set of options that you can use here. So what I recommend you do, if we just leave most of what we've got at the top, we just want the .NET desktop environment. Okay, so if we look, there's a bunch of things which are ticked. If we want to add stuff to it later on, we can do, but for now we're just going to use a .NET. That should let us do VB, and it should let us do C#. If you're interested in looking at any other languages, like you can get a Python one as well for this, but you're probably used to using idle or something. It's quite large, it's 4 and a bit gigabytes, so it's going to take a while. So I am going to just leave the video running. I'll speed it up a bit and I will catch you once it's installed. Okay, so as you can see, I did have start when it's finished downloading and installing ticked. I've got a pop-up which come up, so this is actually installed now. It means I can close out the installer, I can close out everything else that I've got open at the moment. When you open up Visual Studio, you should see this. Now, it does say create an account, sign in. You don't need to do that. You just click not now, maybe later. You get to choose what colour theme you want. I'm just going to use the standard blue one. A lot of students use dark. I'm just going to use that because I think it's a bit easier to read on the screen. It can take a while sometimes when it's first starting itself up, but Visual Studio 2019 free edition is now installed and looks a bit like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to start our first project. So what I'm going to ask you to do is create a new project, and you need to just pay attention to what you're setting up at the start. This is a little bit unintuitive, I think, sometimes for new users, but you're going to be using a console application. So before we can make fantastic 3D games and earn loads of money and so on, or whatever you want to get out of studying computer science in the long term, you're going to need to start by just writing command line programs, which are the fundamental part of any computer system, and they're the things that run everything in the background, really. So once we can work out how to do that, then we can move on to doing some 2D graphics and things maybe later on. So we're going to do it in VB. Make sure you don't choose C#, otherwise it's not going to work for you. Choose VB and just click next. The main thing that you need to be aware of is the location where it's going to be saved. So what I normally like to do is I like to make a folder in my documents, but the default place is in users in your drive under source, and then in this folder here, repos, which is just a repository. I'm just going to leave it as the default location for now. Give your name give your project a name. So console app 1. The next one's going to be called console app 2, and so on and so on and so on. When you've got 30 of them, obviously they become a bit more difficult for you to remember. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call it Hello World, because that's going to be the first program we're going to write. And you can place the solution and project in the same directory. I'm just going to leave them as they are for now. Click create. It sometimes takes a little while, but here we've now got our first program, and it's done a bit of it for us. So let's have a quick look and see what we've got. We've got the main area where we're going to write our code. We've got an area called the Solution Explorer. Now, as you come to do things like your coursework project, that's going to become a bit more important, but for now, the Solution Explorer is going to be the main, it's just going to have the main program in it, and that's it, really. Okay. You've also got a properties panel down there, which you're probably not going to touch for the time being anyway. And then the next most important part of the screen is up here, which is where you can actually compile and run your program. I'll speak in a future video a bit more about the process that happens there. If you get any errors, you're going to get a little pop-up down the bottom, and it does give you a bit of help, which is one of the nice things about VB. So let's just quickly have a quick look at what this program does. We've got a little area where we can just collapse and expand different parts of it. We've got submain, we've got console.writeline hello world. That's the hello world program. That's our basic program. So if we quickly run this program, it'll have a think about it the first time. You can see you've got your little debugger which has popped up down the bottom. and you can see your program runs, and then it says hello world. So there is our first program. We've actually completed all of the parts of our first tutorial. So if I quickly want to show how to write a different message, I'll just show you how to do that. The code for doing it was console.writeLine. Welcome to studying computer science! Exclamation mark. So if I run hello world there, you'll see that that program has completed running for me. Now all this information that's down there, don't worry about that for now. That's just because we're debugging at the moment. And for now also, don't worry about what's going on with sub main. Just know that all your code is going to go between sub and end sub, for now at least anyway. Okay, that is the first part of your program. The second thing that I'm just going to quickly show you, if you do console.writeLine, underneath it you are going to learn to write using vb.net. If we press run, just before I press run, maybe think what's going to happen. You get each of the commands on separate lines. It's a bit like a print in Python. Okay, so that's going to be the end of the first video. If you quickly look at the exercises, you can pause the video now and you can have a go at doing both of these. They're fairly straightforward. And I've got a typing error there. They're both number 1. Never mind. If you pause the video, you can have a go at doing them, and I'll quickly show you how to do them after. There we go. So, exercises. Firstly, write a program which prints your name. That's fairly straightforward, isn't it? If we look at our empty program, don't forget we're going to put everything between sub main and end sub for now. It's just console.writeLine and then print your name. Your name. The second exercise was just print your name, your form, and the score on different lines. That's quite straightforward. We can do, let's space it out so it says name, console.writeLine, form, let's call our form Campion. Let's just pretend there's a form called Campion, and console.writeLine school equals the Campion School. So if I run that program, you're going to see each of those 3 things on different lines. Just notice how the console.writeLine works. It's literally console dot, and then writeLine is a function that the console can do, which is just output to the screen. And then you've got to put something in there, and at the moment we're just putting something in speech marks, and it's just going to literally write out whatever's inside those speech marks, which is a string. Literally write a string out. That's what that means, the speech marks. Okay, so there you go. You can now write out loads of things on the screen, all on different lines. Just a little bonus, if we were to take out the word line, you might have noticed when you were typing in, you get like a little predictive box which basically tells you different things that the console can do. One of the things is just write rather than write line. Before I run it, have a quick guess at what it's going to do. If I run the program, you can see that they've put everything on the same line. So write line doesn't put a new line in at the end. It just writes to where we were before. So if we want to move to a new line, we can do write line rather than write. And you can mix and match. You can do right in the middle and then do write line at the end, and it will always put a new line in at the end of it. It doesn't put a new line in at the start. It puts a new line in at the end. So that's the end of the first video. The next video we're going to look at is input, output, and assignment, and it's the time where your programs can start getting a bit more interesting. So hopefully I haven't bored you too much, and I will see you over in the next video. Thank you.